Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here and listening to our talk with like a very catchy title. DeFi versus regulators, who will win? Is it really a fight? We'll try to answer those two questions today. And with like our perspective on how DeFi and in general decentralization really can enter into the broader world where we're living. Let's start very quickly by presenting ourselves. Marina, maybe?
Oh, thank you. So thanks again, everyone, to be here at the last talk today. My name is Marina. I'm coming from Slovenia, and I'm a board member of the Slovene blockchain think tank. And I'm happy to have the possibility to present this today to you.
I'm Florian from Germany, and I represent a little bit the German crypto community. We founded a blockchain association there in 2017, and happy to be here and present both the European and the German perspective.
Thank you, and I am Simon Polrot. I am the European responsible for European affairs at ADAN, the French Crypto Assets Association, and I was one of the co-founder of Ethereum France. So I've been involved in the Ethereum community for quite a long time. Let's start without further ado. So first, very important things we want to emphasize today is the narratives. You know that the future is structured by narratives, and what we are building can bring forward a lot of different narratives, right? We create a tool that is multi-purpose, an open blockchain that is programmable, with which you can do basically anything you want. And anything is actually being built on this, which means positive things and maybe less positive things. So the most important thing is basically what is the dominant narrative that will emerge with the things that we are actually trying to do. Because this narrative is a narrative that will go outside in the most broader world, and this is a narrative that will create the reaction from outside of the community. And this is something where probably the latest times were not that good. We've seen a lot of different things happening in the outside of the crypto asset space that may think that people are more and more thinking about the crypto assets as a dystopia rather than an utopia. And this is really like the shift in the different narratives and the different ways of seeing the things that we are building. This is what we see, right? When we talk about Ethereum, we see the community, we see the things that are being built, the DeFi, we see the technology, and all those very things that are inspiring ourselves, like to do better things and to create things that are meaningful for the society. And unfortunately, most of the people outside, they see the surface of things, and this is basically what they see, right? So ransomwares that are used to pay ransoms, so Bitcoin used to pay ransoms, and then the Bitcoin consumption, and then, of course, speculation. So basically, what they see, if they stay on the surface, is a technology that's burning the planet to pay ransoms and to fuel speculation. Well, that's not a very good look, obviously, and this is where probably there's a work to do, like creating more meaningful narratives for the world. And today, what's happening is that, of course, we are on a stage where the market is becoming really significant. Like the assets are becoming very, very big in size. There's a lot of exchanges, there's a lot of projects. So everyone is looking at what's going on in the crypto asset space today. This includes governments, agencies, and all the people that are really deciding the rules for us as citizens. And today, most, I won't say the policymakers, most of the policymakers don't really understand decentralization and public networks because they're not coming from there. And beyond the general lack of education, there's an increased problem with people who are already in place. I would say like all the industries that also have this very surface-like view of what we are doing. And they're, of course, spreading those views because that's also in their best interests to do so. So we are in a place where, in the places of power, the discourse on crypto assets is not really improving. That's something that we've seen because we work, of course, in different organizations at the national level, and we've been working for a year now, pro bono together with the EU organizations, Commission and Council and Parliament members, and we see the shift happening, like in the way the discussions are going on. A year ago, nobody talked about environment, nobody talked about speculation. Today, those narratives are coming back and influencing the work that is actually being done now. So those are the people, some of the people, that are actually looking at us right now and trying to decide what they will do with the crypto assets. And this is like a very broad debate around, how to access them, how to regulate them, how to control them, and we'll see more about those initiatives that are currently being drafted. And those people, they come from, very traditional, of course, backgrounds. Most of them are not technical. Most of them are, of course, good, willing people. They're trying to do the best for the society, and they are listening to the narratives, to basically the vision of what we are creating to decide what they will do with the regulation. This is like very normal process. You first have to determine whether the thing you are regulating is a bad thing or a good thing, or maybe a neutral thing, and then create the appropriate response to this. And unfortunately, because of this, lack of probably like understanding as deep as we have, because we are in the community and we've been here for quite a long time, and we understand like the basics of this. The way they see it, like from a surface, is like, okay, you're talking to me about a decentralized hedge fund. What is this? And who controls this? A small example I can give on this, very simple, from a regulator I met. He was asking me, okay, there's all this decentralized stuff that I understand, but couldn't we just sue the Ethereum Foundation for everything that's happening on Uniswap? So the level of understanding of really what's happening, it's this kind of thing. They're just trying to find someone to attract and to basically capture based on the way they are thinking about regulation. So, and maybe to add to this, DeFi has a very specific problem compared to the other decentralized use case, is that it really encompasses maybe all the fears of the regulators, because it's finance, of course. It's attached to speculation, because finance is attached to speculation in a way. And as a first glance, what regulators fear and what DeFi can do, it's basically the same thing. So, Marina.
Thank you. So this is how the regulators see DeFi, and this is what their fears are. They think that is something that lacks control, that is made for speculation. It's shadow banking. They associate what's happening in the DeFi space, in the decentralized space, to hacks, or its threat to a fiat dominance. That's also, I think, very important, and it is also discussed in the MiCA as one of the goals. It's something that is used to finance terrorism. It's something that is very, very much energy consuming, and it's something that makes average Joes losing money. So of course they're concerned about the citizens, but they see this as a negative tool which everyone can use. And of course for money laundering. So it's something that it's very negative, and it's something they see usually in the media. And this is how they relate to whatever we are talking about and doing here and trying to build. So our narrative is this. This is what we want to show to the regulators and to the people that are outside of our community. This is what we're building. This is what we are spending our energy to do. And we want to build a world where it's like a new financial system. We want to build finance that is ethical. We want to build innovative products, of course, based on open source, as most of the products are. We want to build a system that is very transparent, and of course, new payment systems, better value distribution, and all the things that I think you're all familiar with. But what is the problem here, and what we have seen in the last year working with the institutions and regulators, this is not what they're seeing. And they actually can't come to this, like, they can't read about this. They usually don't have time, or maybe then they don't have resources to understand what is our community about. And what is really important, whenever we are talking to projects about what's happening with the regulators, what's happening with the new laws that they're drafting, they say they can't stop DeFi. And in a way, it's true. So DeFi is unstoppable, but it's not invincible. In the future, it could happen that they would prosecute developers, deployers, users, or token holders. It's also possible that there would be a prohibition to use institutions or normal customers, so the ones outside of DeFi, to limit DeFi and its uses. And also put control at the gate, so the ones that are onboarding people into the DeFi solutions and services, like, for example, exchanges and brokers, etc. And of course, they can also take down domains and front ends, which would still be very hard for people to access those services. And the most important thing is that they would deny Nobel Prize for Economics for Vitalik. So this is also a very important thing that we're focusing on.
Okay, can I actually see the slides? Yeah, perfect. So where do we get from here, right? So I think just to illustrate a little bit that we're not just fear-mongering, but that actually this stuff is happening, we just want to give two examples. The first one is this really interesting narrative that is emerging now on the side of international regulatory bodies, but also national bodies, for example, in Germany, where we've seen this, where the term wallet is slowly being changed to mean either a hosted or an unhosted wallet. So when I came into this space, a wallet was simply a private key that I have on my computer that I use to sign transactions with. Today, in the regulatory sphere, this would be called an unhosted wallet. And an unhosted wallet, by definition, is suspicious because nobody knows who controls the private key that corresponds to that wallet address. This is a really concerning development, and just recently in Germany there was a proposal on the implementation of the so-called travel rule, and it's literally said in the reasoning behind this that unhosted wallets are by default suspicious because they can be used for terrorism financing and money laundering, right? So these narratives that are circulating in the regulatory sphere are all centered around those negative perspectives on what we're building here, as opposed to this really positive stuff that we are associating with it. Another illustration is this most recent regulatory proposal on the EU level called MiCA, or Markets in Crypto Assets, which was drafted in response to essentially Facebook announcing this Libra stablecoin. And the EU, not knowing that, you know, there's not just Libra, but also a million of other interesting, more decentralized projects, just flat out created rules that make algorithmic and decentralized stablecoins effectively illegal in Europe. Like, there is no way to run a decentralized stablecoin project in Europe under these regulations, since a decentralized project cannot comply with the rules that are stipulated in there. So in the current draft, which of course we still try to influence, it's really, really concerning for the whole European space looking into the future. What else is coming, right? So it's not just Europe with the MiCA regulation and the anti-money laundering regulation and the tax fraud and evasion regulation and different national level implementations of travel rules, ICO licenses, crypto asset custody licenses, wallet identification, and all these other things. We also see in the US, of course, a less statutory law approach, more an agency-based approach, with the SEC, the CFTC, the OCC, all passing different kinds of regulations. What's interesting is that in the US, at least when it comes to stablecoins, there is a much more positive outlook so far as we can see, but that of course could change as well. There is what is called the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF for short. They are a kind of unaccountable international body that makes recommendations to states and governments of how to regulate, how to make rules against money laundering and terrorism financing. And they are making very strong recommendations against essentially how blockchains and wallets are supposed to work, at least in our mind. And this is, you know, slowly but surely creeping into those national and international laws and regulations. So let's get to the meat of this, right? So what could a middle ground actually look like, right? So I think there won't be a world with no regulation that affects the DeFi ecosystem, the decentralized use cases in general, open blockchains, open value networks, so all the stuff that we here at the FCC are excited about. So what could actually a regulation look like that preserves permissionless innovation, financial inclusion, and all the things that we care about, while giving the assurances that regulators need in order to do their job, right? So this is something that we've all individually here been working on over the past 4, 5, 6 years. But for the past year, we've done that together on the European level, making concrete proposals to the European regulators in order to really prevent this MiCA regulation from just killing all of DeFi in Europe. And there is a lot of things to draw from, actually, that are also part of the decentralized ecosystem, such as self-sovereign identities that could be used to provide some level of KYC in some areas of the DeFi ecosystem, for example. And we definitely need the input of the whole community to actually come up with innovative solutions. Another aspect, of course, is self-regulation, to maybe even pilot regulatory regimes that could later on be picked up by legislators and implemented as proper rules. Yeah, what can we do as a community, I think? So a lot of people here in this room, which makes me really happy. It shows that you care. And so what we've seen from working now for a year, more or less, on the European level together, is that we need many more organizations and individuals coming together to create those positive narratives that explain to regulators and lawmakers what we actually are all about. Why do we spend all our energy in creating these yield farming schemes and crazy DeFi protocols, right? It's not about making a quick buck. It's really about building a better, more inclusive financial system. But this narrative right now does not reach the ears of the regulators. Quite the opposite. They are being fed deliberate FUD by market incumbents to believe that it's all about money laundering and terrorism financing and so on. So as a community, we need to be much more open and vocal about the values that we pursue with what we build here together. And beyond this positive view on what we do, it's about not just education, but actually coming up with concrete proposals that show an alternative path. And it's going to be the positive narrative combined with a practical proposal of how to regulate it in a way that makes sense, that could ultimately lead us to a future where in Europe we can actually have DeFi and not actually make it just a fringe kind of shadow banking economy. Self-regulation, of course, is another aspect to this. And yeah, I think we want to invite all of you to, I don't know, approach us and I don't know, do your own thing in order to promote that. Now, the three of us here, having worked together for a year on the European level, decided actually to go a step further and intensify our endeavors to talk to the regulators, in particular in Europe. And so we think what we can do is be a neutral voice that represents all of the decentralized ecosystem that can share this positive ethos behind the long-term vision of crypto, right? Creating this more inclusive system for everybody. We think that we can have the best impact if we represent all the public networks that are all in this together. So this is not about, just the Ethereum ecosystem or just, whatever ecosystem. This is something that all the different blockchains out there and all the projects building on those blockchains are affected by, equally. So it's about promoting this positive vision in a way that is credible and neutral. We're calling this initiative, under which we operate, the European Crypto Initiative, and we've spent a lot of time over the past year to connect with all these institutions on the EU level. And we actually already had quite a positive impact on the current draft of this MiCA proposal. We were able to introduce a few exceptions for DeFi use cases, which is incredibly rewarding to see. But we also understand that our journey is just starting, right? So just yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a new AML package proposed by the EU, and it also addresses anonymous accounts with exchanges and other things around money laundering. So there is now a lot of regulation coming, and we all together, but also the three of us, will do our job to make this to make the outcome more positive for the decentralized space. Yeah, so that's pretty much our message. Let's stop the FUD and spread the positive crypto vibes everywhere we can. Let's be more vocal of our vision. Let's not stop at yield farming. Let's actually make the world better together. And yeah, please contact us here, approach us, send us an email. We're crypto-initiative.eu. We don't really have a website yet, so just send us an email. And yeah, we look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you very, very much.
Do we have time for one question?
I think we have 1 minute. Or?
Yeah, there's one there.
That certain DeFi protocols are exploring, whereby, I mean, how I'm envisioning it, there's a central sort of KYC company or something that creates a whitelist, and then there are these walled gardens within each protocol that is only accessible to like KYC'd users. How do you see that playing out? Is this a viable approach? Is this completely at odds with DeFi? Just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, that's my personal view. We haven't shared anything on this, but I feel like it's an interesting initiative to make a step towards what the regulator wants. This is not something that would be feasible, practical for the rest, all the community, of course, and the most innovative products. And if you want to have some form of composability between the protocols and some form of complex products that you want to create, of course you cannot just have this walled garden to every single piece of everything. So this is something that makes sense to just create a positive approach towards some form of institutional investors, which is always good, like to make them understand what we're building and the protocols and basically make them more tech savvy with what we're doing. This is probably not the end state and the end game of how everything will evolve. Well, that would be my answer. I don't know.
I would just add to that it's kind of the obvious way to approach it, I would say, to have this KYC oracle, and you can only transact on that protocol if you have this, if you're on the whitelist, essentially. But it would, in a sense, totally defeat the purpose of financial inclusion, in a sense. I had a practical experience with that. I was involved in a fully regulated, like BaFin, German regulator, approved token sale. And it was open to the world, and we had hundreds, maybe thousands of people from Africa that wanted to buy tokens, and they had no document to go through a KYC process. Like, they literally could not KYC, although they wanted to, because their government doesn't issue a document that is recognized by some KYC provider as legitimate. There are other things like, there's a lot of problems around this. So we cannot just push for this as the solution and then be done with it. I think we would do a disfavor to the space. So I think any solution needs to be more fine-grained, but it's still good to see that some protocols are starting to think about this and are looking at this as a potential solution. Yeah.
Hi guys, thanks for the speech. Yeah. Just one question. What do you think about travel rule and the things that CyberTrace and Elliptic doing? Maybe this will solve problem, maybe just a part of a problem.
No, that's a very tricky question. Travel rule is a rule that was basically extended from the financial sector to the crypto asset sector 2 years ago with the FATF recommendations that went out in 2019. And since then, the industry has been trying to find an answer to this because, well, basically travel rules mandates you to, for every transfer that you are implementing with another entity, to transfer some form of information to this entity about the identity of the sender and the identity of the beneficiary and some form of verification. Well, it's really a tool to add layers of verifications that aims to reduce the risk of terrorism financing and all the likes. And this is something that the crypto asset industry in general and a lot of actors that are concerned by this by those obligations have stepped up to create tools. Of course, people like of course Elliptic and CyberTrace, this is basically their job. That's what they're doing already, like providing data about blockchain. And then you have ad hoc industry initiatives that's been created. So this is really like it's mandatory anyways. There's no way around it. It's really something, as soon as the FATF creates an obligation, then almost the whole world will follow. This is how it works today. So as a crypto asset industry, we're still small, we don't have the legitimacy of the big actors, and it's really difficult to actually have a meaningful conversation with these kind of organizations. This is part of the problem. So this is something that's enacted now. And this is not really something where anything can be done. And this is even more the case now that the EU just proposed like an extension, of course, that is completely compliant with FATF. There's probably a way, because it's only subjecting the centralized entities as of today. So as soon as it is the case, it's somewhat possible to do this. In a technical way, it's a bit complex, but there's solutions to do this. But then, of course, it's step by step. And the latest recommendations of the FATF were quite concerning on this. We did a lot of comments because they were basically expanding the rules to all the decentralized use cases, which is completely absurd from a technical, practical perspective, of course, but still very concerning. So yeah, I would say travel rule is like an extension that doesn't necessarily make sense in the crypto asset space, but we can't do anything about it. it could be implemented by centralized entities, but then if there's some form of extension to something else, then we have a very big problem.
Are you planning to operate as a DAO? Because I think it would be great to also incentivize people, for example, to write the positive stories that you're asking. I mean, you heard me.
Yeah, so the question was whether
it's for the streaming, so I need to repeat for the streaming. Hi, streaming. So yeah, are you going to operate as a DAO yourself? I think it would be interesting, but also because I think there will be interest in the community for people who want. We need journalism. We need to tell. We need about storytelling, and how can we incentivize people to write great stories? Could be one way to contribute to that DAO, and then of course you as well.
Yeah, so we actually are considering this. The way we are working is also trying to do some steps towards the regulators and everything. So we actually need, in any case, like some form of association incorporated somewhere that would have like an official recognition and everything, all the likes. So this is like the first form of it. But yeah, this is of course something that we are discussing, and especially in order to incentivize and help people contribute to what we are trying to do. Yeah. Also, maybe something that we have not emphasized enough in the presentation is that we really want to be as open as possible. So we have a GitHub where we already published a few documents, like open source and Creative Commons. And the idea is really to be like, allow everyone to just contribute directly to the documents, be open in communication channels and everything.
What we are seeing and what we have done in the past is actually being like a translator from this community to the regulators. So when we go to the regulators, you know, we had jokes like we are wearing a tie and like talking their language, and then here we are coming actually from this space. So this is also what is very important to make people understand what's happening, and like also speaking to the people in DeFi, like kind of translating what the regulators think and how they see this space and what they want to do in the future.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.